Welcome to the Growler Garage for the very first time in regards to CalSpeed. We are used to seeing us on our podcast, but this time we actually have a purpose for being here for the first ever CalSpeed Sport Kart review here alongside race director Mike Smith, along with today's big winner in the sprint series, Sean Fite, defending champion. I'm your host, Patrick Britton. We will start out with the Ironman, Sean, so we're going to have to get back to you in a little bit on that, but you were in that Ironman also. So, for those of you who didn't see the announcement, which would be weird that you're watching this without it, we're going to be reviewing all the happenings of sport karting at CalSpeed once a month here. It'll come out in the days following the Sprint Series Ironman, and we'll recap the previous round of the Super Series, Sprint Series Ironman, as well as look forward to the next coming races, and of course start looking towards Grands as things go on, and maybe at the end of the season we'll even start looking at Machismo just a little bit. So Mike, I'm going to start with you. Obviously the Ironman Sprint Series was today. We're going to start with the Ironman, which had a last minute cancellation, which ended up being really big on the day. It was sold out, and a last-minute guy got in.
Well, yeah, there's actually quite a few curveballs that came at us. At one point, we weren't even sure we were going to get it in. We actually started sprinkling during the driver's meeting.
And that put you behind, what, about 45 minutes or so?
Yeah, right about there. So, yeah, I started sprinkling, and that's all it did. It just sprinkled. But it sprinkled for about that whole half hour, 45 minutes. So we never really lost the track. We were able to get it going. But, yeah, we had a last-minute cancellation, more than one, actually. We had... one guy get out, which allowed Diego Morales to get in. He was the first person on that wait list, and he got in, which for those of you who were there, you know how such a big deal that was, because he ended up going on to not only grab pole, but grab the win.
Yes, I was watching it very intently at work today on Race Monitor, and the most interesting thing about that is I talked to Diego a couple of weeks ago, and he saw that the Ironman sold out, and he was super bummed about it because he wants to run for an Ironman championship this year.
Actually, Diego was at the track, and he was like, yeah, I'm totally going to run the Ironman. And I'm like, well, it's sold out. And you could just see his face, it was over. And for it to do this complete 180, it's a bit of a emotional roller coaster for him.
Yeah, and the championship's already shaking up in a big way. Taylor Hayes was second today.
Right, defending champ. He's going to be tough all year. Sergio Bravo didn't have the best day, but certainly not a terrible start to his day. I think he was in the back half of the top 10, if I'm not mistaken there. And I believe he's going for a championship, as well as Bill Myers, who maybe isn't a championship threat this year. He's a former champ, but he obviously had those health issues. But he had a pretty decently solid day. Yeah. And they're running in the top 15 for most of the day. So there's those people, and there's people like Sean, who's running for a championship but didn't have the day he was looking for. But you do get that race drop. So
yeah. Thanks. January race drop.
So Sean, tell us about that race a little bit for those of us that weren't there. I mean, what kind of race was it? It was Sportivo. You know, it was obviously something of a drafting track, but a little bit finesse also. I mean, how was the racing today?
It's interesting. Being back, I qualified 15th, which is rough. I did out-qualify Sergio Bravo and John Kimbrell.
That's always a good day when you can do that.
But when we started racing, I mean, there were certain packs, but once they broke away, they weren't getting away. The packs were like 5 seconds apart from each other. And then the pit stops happen, and then you see the real talent with Taylor Hayes just putting in a good pit stop today was 118, and that's what he was doing. Myself just wet the bed. I'm doing 119. I did a 120. My day was rough.
What about the start? Because we actually went to the staggered standing start, and immediately it was nose to tail like you'd see in a normal heat race. I have to assume from your guys' point, from the driver's seat, it was a huge difference.
Absolutely. The talent of this field was very good, and because everybody's so talented, everybody knows what the plan is. Let's get in a line. Let's get somewhere for 58 minutes. We'll race for 2 minutes, and then we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Now, tell me about what you expect with the invert. And really, I'll ask you this, Mike, in a second. It was obviously really controlled today. It was very clean at the start, it sounds like. But when we invert it, and we invert the lead lap drivers from this one only, I believe Jason Collins will be on pole for the next one, if I'm not mistaken. I believe he was the last driver on the lead lap.
First driver,
one lap down. You're right. So do you expect that? I think that's somewhere around 14 drivers or so are inverted.
22.
22. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you expect it to be back to last year, where it's that rough and tumble, beat 'em up first lap, or do you think it's going to be a little more
I don't
subdued?
think it'll be the land grab like the Monaco or Le Mans style,
Mm-hmm.
but the plan is to
Sure.
be the first up of the quick guys, get past the guys that barely stay on the lead lap.
Now, Mike, from race control's perspective, it sounds like it was again a much cleaner start today. Do you really feel like you're in touch with these drivers? You know what they're thinking. Most of the time, you actually probably talk to these drivers when they're a little hotter than most of the rest of us.
Little.
You get to talk to them right when their helmet's first coming off. Did you hear much complaining at all about the start today?
Actually, I didn't hear it come up once.
And that's
the start didn't
a huge
even think-
improvement over last year.
Since that was the first thing that we all talked about
Yeah.
after at the end of the 60 minutes, we were talking about the first 30 seconds. So yeah, no, it was pretty clean. Even at the very end, we had some really hard racing to get those final spots, including Jason Collins trying to be on the lead lap versus one lap down, and it actually was hard but fair, if you will, for the most part. So it was pretty good.
Now, looking at the picture, and this is the last we'll kind of talk about the invert. Looking at the picture of the finish, I believe Jason Collins was there on the inside with another lap down driver right behind him. Now, in the back of my head, I'd be thinking, if I'm Collins, I want to finish one lap down. Because if it's that first driver one lap down, you're starting on pole. Whereas if you beat the leader to the line, that guy behind you is now on pole.
Yeah,
Do you think that was happening at all there? Do you think he thought that
No,
fast?
I know that definitely didn't happen. It's because of how the last lap went down. Because Morales actually made the move into Sportivo very late with contact and kind of moved Collins out of the way a little bit. And then Collins let him know in Monaco how little he liked that and didn't take him out, but definitely was one of those things where we're going to kind of watch to see how this shakes out, or else we're going to have some penalties.
Sure.
But they kind of shook things out. Hayes got to the back bumper of Morales because of that. But there was really no, bad stuff that happened. Coming out of Long Beach, the reason why that picture shows it the way it is Morales is middle of the road. Hayes is to the inside. They lose some time going through there. Collins is that third party out, gets the run, and is able to make it happen. So the interesting bit, to your point, is if he beats them to the line, he's now P2. Is that big of a deal? I don't think so. However, who is rooting for that? The guy behind him.
That's right, exactly. And it kind of just put a final point on it. We already talked about Morales taking the win today, starting out the season strong. Taylor Hayes certainly doing his championship defense, no harm in second. Then we had the rest of the top five. Let's run through them if you got them off the top of your head. Rounding out the podium was Aaron Downs. Yeah, was the top three really broke away all race, right?
Yeah, it didn't start out though. It was actually Morales.
I'll give you a guess who finished fourth. I'll give you one guess who finished fourth.
Hold on, I'm looking up my stats.
Don't even look.
No, I got it.
You'll know who finished fourth today.
Was it Nick Mauricio?
It was Adam
No, it was
Nagel.
Adam Nagel, yeah. Nick was fifth, right? Nick had a good run in the Ironman.
I guess
I thought he was like
had some
sixth
good
or
pit
something.
Something like
He
that.
was right in there.
Yeah.
And you know what though? It was really there was the front three, and then there was a fairly large gap, and then there was like six people, like basically nose to tail. Nagel was in there, Connell was in there, Marasho was in there, and there was a decent amount of lovemaking going on through that area.
Can we not put it that way?
But it was
I love lovemaking.
yeah. I'll tell you.
Not at CalSpeed.
Well,
it was good
You're
though.
10
There was
carts
a
behind somebody. There's some lovemaking. You've made up 10 cart lengths.
and there was plenty of that. But everybody played it pretty cool. It was some really good racing. In the clinic today, we worked on holding the outside and doing some different things, and you saw people put it to good use. So it was a good first round for the Ironman.
Excellent. And certainly early, we've got two championship favorites right off the bat. We're only one of 8 in. Certainly we've got a lot of time to go, but Morales and Hayes have got to be the two to watch early on.
Maybe. I mean, absolutely. I mean, Morales is going to be good every time he comes out, and Hayes proved that he's the man to beat last year.
Absolutely. So let's move on to the sprint series now. Sean, this one certainly treated you a little bit better today. I believe only the second person in sprint series history to have that perfect day, going pole, winning your heat race, and winning the main. And I don't believe you lost the lead in either of those races, right?
Nope.
So
No.
perfect flag to flag. I don't know if Matt Hart managed to do that the first time around.
I'll have to ask him. Yeah. I mean, I helped him do a second win. I was like, I got to get that second win.
So did your approach change at all, knowing that this isn't a championship for you this year? You can only run 2 races. So was it a go for broke, who cares
Yep.
type of thing? Last year you were points racing a bit, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, this I was bringing home a trophy. I was gonna be pissed.
Now, behind you, certainly you led in the A main the whole way, but for a minute you started to check out a little bit. From second place, ended up being Nick Mauricio. Third place, Ariel Rubio, teammate. And you three kind of got away, but then fourth and fifth, sixth and seventh, then kind of sorted their order out a little bit, and they started to catch you. Did you realize that they were coming, or did you figure they were far enough back that?
Yeah, it was far enough back that we could screw around in Long Beach. Not far enough that we could screw around in Florence Sportiva. So.
Right.
Because there was a moment where you guys had about a 2-second lead on fourth, who at the time was Alex Bermudez. He had Riley Dugan right behind him, and then Ashley Arnott and Dennis Kimbrell kind of got things sorted, caught Dugan and Bermudez, passed them very quickly, and then they kind of set sail and didn't quite get to Rubio in time, but they were catching you to the tune of about 4/10 a lap. So you kind of saw it, but you just kind of, it's fine.
Just out the window. No, I could see. I mean, I look back after Long Beach and Monaco, and it just looked like me and Nick were. It wasn't a threat to me. And I heard there was some shenanigans in turn 4. I wish I could have seen that, but I'd rather just.
Yeah, I do want to talk about that because I've heard a little bit about there being some sort of issue early in the race, some sort of incident of some sort, but I haven't seen any video yet. Are you able to shine any light on? I don't know how many karts were involved. I know nothing about it other than it happened and took out at least one potential championship contender in Luis Calderon.
Calderon was involved, but also Patrick O'Keefe. O'Keefe actually got the worst end of that. He ended up P last after that event. It sounds like it was basically somebody makes moves, there's a little bit of contact, and then a very, very fast accordion from what I'm hearing.
Gotcha.
I actually was in Long Beach and Monaco and didn't have eyes on that one. So I can't actually shed a whole lot except for over the radio. That's not one person's fault. That's a bad racing situation, and unfortunately, it sounds like O'Keefe had nowhere to go.
Yeah.
And he got collected pretty hard. Actually turned around the wrong direction at one point.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it went from bad to worse in a big way for him, which is too bad because he had a pretty decent run going after an Ironman that didn't go the way he wanted.
Is he looking to run the whole season? Does he share that with you?
That is his plan. That was his plan, to try to make the track out from AZ and make that happen every round.
So he'll be a definite guy to keep our eye on in that championship chase. Which, speaking of that, all three of the podium drivers in this round were 2 race-only drivers, which puts fourth place Ashley Arnott as unofficially, I don't know him yet, the championship points leader. And I don't know if Alex Bermudez is running the whole season or not. I know he's eligible to.
He's attempting to. I mean, that's kind of the plan. His primary thing that he does is the Porsche, the Boxster racing.
A little bit more, I guess, big on his scale.
Yeah, it definitely has priorities.
Yeah, I guess.
But no, it's one of those things where he's going to try and hit him up as he can. He knows that he's going to miss Super Series races, which is too bad. That's why it threw out any chance for that.
Making the Super Series A main earlier this month.
His second one, I believe.
Yeah,
he's 2 for 2, I believe, for the A mains. So huge props to Ashley. We made mention of at the podium because, as you say, the true points leader, if you look at it that way, because Fite, Marasho, those guys all up at the front.
Right.
There are 2 race guys. Kimbrell is a 2 race person.
Yep.
Dugan's a 2 race person.
The next
basically it was Bermudez, and then another big shout out. I want to say it was Don Diego and Alvarado.
Yeah.
So a couple of Diegos in there, and that's that. Like actually, I expected to be up there. It's year 2 for Sprint. She's one of the top returning drivers from last year who's eligible. But the pair of Diegos there, that's big for those guys to be inside top 10.
Yeah, definitely for me. I'm not necessarily surprised, but impressed, I guess, to see them, somewhere in the top 5 in points as it runs right now. But not super impressed to see them kind of in the fight for it. Being there last year, watching those guys, getting to even talk to Diego Alvarado a little bit, I've seen the improvement happening with those two, and it's been under the radar. It's been lap times. The results haven't necessarily been showing it, but one of them, maybe both, is going to break out and get on a podium this year. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised by that whatsoever from either of those 2 guys, maybe even both.
I think that's the beautiful thing about the Sprint Series. It does shine light on people who have been under the radar, as you say. Now, this is their chance to, hey, look at me. I can make this thing happen. And as we saw last year with, Sean and Ariel and those guys, it pays dividends at the next level when they're running the Super Series as well.
Absolutely. That and you're certainly a perfect example of this, Sean, is the confidence of knowing how to control a race, knowing how to lead a race, knowing how to just learning to pass people.
Right
Yeah.
up front.
That's a big deal, is learning how to pass.
It's a hell of a lot different when you got clean air out front than you have 4, 5, 10 carts.
That's right, exactly. And it's, certainly going to be a situation where we're going to see that next crop this year. And I still think Steve Jasinski is probably the guy to beat. He didn't have the day he wanted today by any stretch, but it does show that I don't think nothing really went wrong for Steve today, right? It just wasn't his day.
I'll
Right?
tell you what, he got hung up in a couple situations where people were making some rougher moves. By rougher moves, I mean decision making, not like a contact. But I saw one situation where he made a good avoidance move, and then they just kind of stopped in front of him, and he got trapped.
It's just the nature of CalSpeed, certainly. Yeah. So, I mean, it goes to show that even though my money, if I'm putting money on it, my money's on Steve, but I'm not feeling necessarily as confident now, not to knock him, but it shows that some of these guys can go out there and they can just beat him.
Well, one of the things that's different about this year, Rise, is year 2. We kind of know what to expect from the series and now some of the drivers. Last year, I didn't know who to pick. We had no idea. It was all new. And, Fite, Rubio, some of those guys, automatically you guys are at the sharp end. Now we actually have a graduating class and the next group kind of coming up. So there's already some favorites, but I don't know how favorite they really are.
Right. And I guess just to put a finish on the sprint series here is, Sean, obviously congrats on your win today. When are you running your second one?
I don't know.
You don't know? You
When
haven't thought that
I
far
find
ahead?
out the Grand Stress. When I find out the Grand
They are running Oval, Nuovo, and then we're going to
Oval
run
again,
the
actually.
Super Speedway,
Yeah.
just the front straightaway.
Some of us think it would be kind of cool if Sean did the finale, the round 8, because then you kind of see where he is with the group now and how that group has grown at the finale. Which
I'd like to put my
want
vote
to
in for that.
say is Technico or Grande Counter, one of the
I
two.
don't remember, it is a more technical track for sure. I'm going to put my vote in for that as well.
Yeah.
So-
In fact, I might just say no, you can't.
Yeah, there you go.
Just pay
So-
for the last round, Mike.
Oh, there it is.
So now we're moving on to obviously the big one, the Super Series, which we saw a couple weeks ago. Miles Calvin coming out with a big win all last year. Last year was his comeback season, looking for wins, looking for a championship. Not a bad year. For him, by his standards, it kind of was. But anytime you're in the top 10, you really can't call it a bad year. Didn't get any wins last year in the A-Main. Comes out of the box this year and steals one. Just drives to the front. And at one point, him and his brother Logan had fallen back off that lead pack. Did a great job, great teamwork, got themselves back there. And Miles took advantage of it, started the year off strong. But really what I thought was more strange, I guess, out of round 1 is nobody had a killer day. I think the top point score is a 380 or 385. I think out of Aaron Scott, I want to say.
It's Scott's got it's like 87 or something like that after I want to say bonus points, and then there's like a 3-way tie for second, like 385s, and I think it was Miles, I want to say Logan and Nagao, I believe
so. I know Sergio Serrano had a good day in the heats. He's up there. There's a mix of, I think I'm around 9th in points, and I'm at 350. I'm 30 points up, but I'm not. There's 8 drivers in between. And then there's a bunch of them that are right there with me. I know, Sean, you're right there. You had a 330-something day, I believe.
I'm 11th, 338.
So, obviously, one race is one race, but we learned, as far as I'm concerned, in that first round, we learned nothing as far as the championship is concerned.
No, I agree with you 100%. I mean, it's the depth,
I'd
right?
say
We've been talking about it for a while.
Is probably the word this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there was 2 guys that maybe put on a little bit of notice. We've known Sergio Serrano's good, but he got up there and led the A-Main, won both his heats. Looked like he might win that thing, and then just the nature of kind of being still a little bit of that new guy. Nobody really worked with him there in that A-Main and sent him a little bit backwards. But then also a career best finish for Henry Morse, getting up there in the top 5 for the first time. And for Morse, that was a pretty big result, and we saw it in his excitement there at the end.
Yeah, anytime you can get the sharp end of the A-Main, it's a big deal. I think that the sharp end's gotten a little bit bigger, if you will. I mean,
it's gotten duller.
If you can get to 10th, that's going to be good this year. I mean, look at Aaron Scott. This is not the Aaron Scott we saw last year. This is the Aaron Scott we saw 2 years ago.
This is the real Aaron Scott.
Yeah, where he did 2 years ago what Nagao did last year. Where, whoa, who is this? And now when he runs this year, we're like, yeah, okay, this makes perfect sense. This is Aaron Scott.
This is what I expected last year before I jinxed him. Aaron Scott is a championship threat, and I don't want anybody saying anything different. There's still people that go, he's got to prove it, and I guess he does. he does still have to prove that he is
I
that
think
threat,
it's like a Wes Dent, right? I think people said the same thing about Wes, and rightfully so. By the end of the season, I think everybody was like, yeah, all right, he belongs at the sharp end, and that's where he is. Scott's already there. So is Nagao, and that's the thing, the number of people, you're back in the game. I mean, there's a lot of talent now.
And that's a key point, is Wes Dent was not out round one. So that was a key.
Got one more to add.
Top 5 guy that wasn't there. And we saw it was about a 9-cart pack, probably more than that. You were part of that pack at the end.
With 13 deep.
13.
Yeah.
And we saw it in the picture at the end. It's just carts everywhere. And that's Nuovo. It's also a testament to the mechanics, to everything else, the driving talent, certainly, because you can put some of those guys in those fast carts and they don't do anything with it.
Well, and back to the drivers, too. You guys have to play that way. It's real easy to force the issue. We've seen Nuovo races go that. We saw some heat races go that way, where there wasn't as much working together, and the spread happens.
Yes.
But when people are willing to back off or lift for a second, slot in, and keep racing, it makes a huge difference.
To an extent, I agree, but kind of in reverse. The more you race, the more the leader doesn't have help, the more we get that pack at Nuovo. So there's got to be some give and take in the pack, but the leader has to be fighting. It's a weird circumstance.
Yes.
So if everybody's fighting the whole way, it's going to just become spread out.
If the top 2 or 3 guys are just hanging out, then
and that's what we normally see. But that January draft is so tempting that you can't do anything.
Actually bring that up for a second, because I think I was talking to you at the end of the day, and you said that, man, we can stay together, but you pop out to make a move and just wall of air or whatever, just it wouldn't go.
Yeah, absolutely. It was very, the air is so dense and cold, and you might be thinking, it's California. What, did it get down to 50? Well, you know what? When we're driving carts with 11 horsepower at best, and you get that air, and the biggest part of the cart is your body, and the percentage of change in horsepower is just dramatic. But then you get out of line and you hit this wall of air, and you just can't do anything with it. And that's what I learned, is if you didn't have that help, it was like Talladega in a cup car in the 90s. Yeah. You get out of line and you've got nothing. And I learned that, and if you watch my A-Main video, which I can link in the comments, or if you haven't seen it, is there'd be certain parts of the track where the cart would bind up and then kind of pull, but then other parts where you'd get back to them. But even in those parts you'd get back to them, you couldn't do anything with it.
Now, did you, when you were watching those things and fight, obviously you were in the A-Main as well, did you purposely not go with people? Did you see people pop out and try to say, like, what are you doing? That ain't going to work. Or that's bad timing? Or because if you pop out and don't have the help, that makes sense, except for people almost always pop out and help. So what happened there? For
me personally, because I knew I didn't have a ton of off the corner, I had great top end, but by the time we got there, I was too far back. For me, it was whoever's on the inside for the next corner, that's who I'm going with. I didn't have the luxury of playing favorites. I didn't have the luxury of playing teammates. I didn't have the luxury of playing a long-term gain. I had to take the short-term gains. Gotcha. And that was, there's some drivers who talked to me afterwards saying I was making some moves that were very unlike me or very aggressive. It's the cards you're dealt. Sometimes you can't be wrecking people. You can't be running them over. And there were some close ones, but
you gotta play that what you said, the cards you're dealt, and that's why I think one of the things we were talking about actually in the clinic today too is being able to adapt to your equipment as best as you possibly can, strengthen your strengths, limit your weaknesses as much as possible.
Limiting the weaknesses is key, and I think that, and Sean, I'd love to get your thoughts on this. I think that's the biggest thing you learn in the sprint series, or when you're first starting out in the super series. That's the biggest factor, is limiting your weaknesses. Everybody has their strong suits, fine, great. You'll use them when you use them. It's if you know that your cart is not good in horseshoe, make sure you're not losing time in horseshoe more than you have to. Yeah. Don't be letting them pass you in horseshoe.
Get out of Contino well. Make sure you get out of Contino.
Back up that corner on entry if you have to. And horseshoe's a bad example because you're flat through there. But if you know you're bad on exit of Contino, back that corner up. Get in there slow. They can't drive through you on entry. Yep. Make sure you're wadding them up a little bit till your exit's good.
And that's where the experience comes into play. I mean, we had talked about this last year, Sean, where you're making the A-mains, but it was like I just can't do anything while I'm here.
I'm 20th.
Yeah,
I'm racing in 20th.
Yeah, you get top 15, you're like yes.
And Sean, obviously your expectations for this year have got to be a little bit in. I don't want to say limbo, but kind of you're in an in-between stage. I mean, you're at a point where certainly a championship could be a goal for you, but I got to think what is getting on the podium's got to be the most immediate goal, right?
Yeah.
Do you have a long-term, like is it top 10 this season, top 5?
The chase.
Okay.
The chase is...
that's not real, right?
It is real to me.
Okay.
It is real to me, but...
So the chase...
Real to me, damn it.
When you get in the chase, you'll find out.
I was in the chase 2 years ago.
Yeah, and you lost.
You just said get in the shit. So you're looking to win or to be
Sure.
top 12 in points?
Top
Something-
16.
Top 16.
Something like that. Yeah.
Well, hell, if
I
you
came
came top
on late.
16, that's a good year.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're not, I'll be honest, if you're not top 16 at the end of this year, you've underperformed.
Yeah.
Sean is a top 12-ish driver in my mind right now, but he's going to be like Wes or Sergio Serrano or the year before that. God, any number of guys who were good, and then all of a sudden they became great.
Yeah.
You need that big breakout moment, and Sergio Serrano is the best example of somebody who's right there.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to get that podium or get a race win like Darren Mercer did, 4 years ago now.
Yeah.
He's good, and then all of a sudden he gets that A-main win, and now you can't stop him. And he's a championship threat every single year. And there's that next group that includes Sean, that includes guys like Matt Hart, that includes Sergio Serrano, Alyssa Yanni. One of them is going to get a win any day now, and in an A-main, and they're going to be right up there running with the Logans, the Miles, the Johns, the Taylor Hayes. It's bound to happen, and that's where we're at with the Super Series. I think the established guard, I don't want to say they're on their way out, but the days of them dominating have been over for a little while. But there's still those 5 to 8 guys who you could put 90% odds on.
Absolutely.
And I think that's about to change.
Absolutely. You've got a situation where there's more people to go with. Like you had mentioned earlier, Sean, depth, right? It's just getting into the A-main is going to be so much tougher on tracks that are not Nuovo. Nuovo is an asterisk, right? Mm-hmm. We've always seen people who let's just say overperform than they normally do on that particular track. It's easier. The draft is huge. Getting help, right place, right time, all these other different factors. But places like Sportivo, Technico, Grande Counter, and these things like that where it's going to be the experienced guys and being able to make things happen. You've got 25 to 30 spots in that A-main, and there's 40 to 50 guys that could get in there. Drivers, guys
no doubt
that could do it. And just making it's going to be big. Just to make the top 10 in points.
Oh, yeah.
The top 20 looks tough.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And to kind of wrap back around, and it's running out of time here a little bit, and there's so much more we could talk about, and we intend to as the season goes on. What I want to look forward to is next year, and really the start of the real season in my mind. Sportivo, it's more of a driver's track. We're gonna get a good feel of who the real drivers to beat are, and that's not to say the front of the pack in Nuovo pretty much was those same guys: Miles Logan, Aaron Scott, what have you.
The usual names.
The usual names, but there was some kind of mixed in there throughout the day. That's why we didn't see that 405 point day. Mm-hmm. But now we're going to Sportivo. I mean, who is? We got to figure that those same guys are going to be fast at Sportivo. But what are you looking towards? What do you think? What's your expectations? I guess predictions, for lack of a better way to put it, for who's going to be good, what to watch for, what kind of racing we might see on Sportivo.
I think you're going to see. Well, I'll tell you. I said that in the preview about the Ironman, how much working together was going to happen versus how much racing. And while there was a good amount of racing, there's a lot of working together going on. So I was a little surprised at how much of that was going. You expect it in Nuovo, but because Sportivo is not a draft happy track. I mean, it just baits you into making moves always.
Oh yeah.
Monaco, please pass me right here. Right?
Entry to Sportivo, which is the worst place to make a move. Well, the best if you can make it work.
Right.
Because nobody expects it. But if you try to make that move in Sportivo and you're not 100% confident, you're either going in the fence or you're getting a black flag.
Yes, and that's the thing. And kudos to everybody today. We had I think we had one instance of people not making that corner. So it was pretty good. And that's saying something with the sprint series, a bunch of new drivers.
That's great.
What are we going to see? Well, we're going to see even more names at the sharp end. Everybody that was there this round, I believe, is going to be there again. We've got a few more that are going to be there. We're going to have Wes Dent. He's going to be there. He's planning on running everything except for the Nuovos, it sounds like. We're also going to have a certain Adam Kellerman.
I saw that.
Going to be there.
Former Super Series A-main winner Adam Kellerman.
Exactly. The amount of talent that we have in this particular run, we've got.
Jarrett will be down.
Yeah, got some people who don't normally run. We might even have somebody. I don't know. And it just popped in my head too. We've got other guys that haven't even been talked about before. Ryan Curtin, Andreas Prieto.
Right. Yeah.
Morales isn't going for points, but he might pop in and do a race.
He says that every year, though. You never know.
I know.
You never know with him.
Guy kills me. It's like, please. But I think we're going to see. I think after seeing everyone nose to tail in the last one and how every point's going to count, I don't think we're going to see a lot of laying back. I think it's going to be smart, but be going that way.
Absolutely agreed. And Sean, I want to say thanks again for coming out. We're friends today, but in about 2 weeks' time,
You're going down.
driving you through the fence.
Be the man. You got to beat the man.
Well, thanks, Sean, again for coming out. Thank you, Mike, for making the long drive down here. We're going to be back, like I said, after each Ironman and Sprint Series to talk a little bit more about them. Make sure you leave some notes in the comments, what you liked, what you didn't like. It's our first time doing it in this way. So let us know if there's stuff that you want to hear us talk more about. If you want these longer, shorter, they're not going to be shorter. Give us your feedback. Send an email to Mike or leave a comment in the YouTube. Don't bother Sean unless you got Coors Light in your hand. Again, I want to thank Mike and Sean for coming out, and we'll see you guys next week. I'm Patrick Britton, and you're not.